pregnancy, miscarriages, all these experiences are like considered so taboo that people don't talk about it. And I feel like people should talk about it.
As much as I wanted to be a dad, I wanted Haley to be a mom.
We kind of just thought that it was gonna happen right away. Okay, maybe I should like go get checked. Maybe I should see what the hormone levels are like. I ended up telling Aaron that I was pregnant. We were honestly so ecstatic. 2 weeks later, I ended up going through an actual miscarriage after almost 2 years of trying. Getting that second positive pregnancy test, I like just knew, no, this is gonna be fine. This baby's gonna be healthy. We're not gonna have another miscarriage. Like, this is gonna be our first child. Can I have a bite of that Snickers? That's true love.
And that's true selfishness that you eat my chocolate.
Thank you. Hey babes.
What's up?
It's Haley.
And Edan.
And welcome back to the Hey Babes podcast.
And we have candy.
Well, you have
I
candy.
have candy, yeah.
You never really share candy with me.
You want one? I saw 4 wrappers downstairs on the table.
Of course that was me. Who else would that be?
So there you go. You had your try. Not my time.
We're so excited to talk about today's topic because I'll tell you guys what. This is one of the things that it was actually a video that went viral. You know, when we announced our pregnancy, we also talked about our whole experience with our infertility, which a lot of people were not aware of because obviously we were keeping everything very hush-hush until, you know, we actually were able to announce that we were pregnant. So since then, I've been flooded with so many messages from that video of so many people saying that it was so meaningful that we shared our experience.
Yeah.
And I think for today's video, it'd be really nice to do a really deep dive into our infertility journey, talking about how long it took us to get pregnant, our feelings towards the whole experience, and on top of that, going through an actual miscarriage after almost 2 years of trying.
Yeah.
So we're really excited to talk about it today. I do, before we get started, want to do a trigger warning. Let you guys know that we are going to be talking about miscarriage. We're going to be talking about loss. It is a little bit of a heavy subject, but we're going to do our best to try to keep it light because as we know, being that I am literally due next week, we have a lot of positivity that came out of our journey and our experience. So that's why we want to share it with you guys.
So if we're obviously still filming this podcast, Haley hasn't, is not in labor yet. Very close to though.
Yes.
We have T-minus 4 or 5 days till Haley's mom comes.
Yeah.
So literally we're just, God willing,
waiting for this baby to hold on.
Once she comes, then she can pop out whenever. But obviously, till then, we're just getting prepared, doing all that stuff. But yeah, this topic's going to be a very, very interesting topic because it's something we've discussed with many people many times.
On a personal level, but not really sharing all the details with you guys.
Exactly.
So with all that, we're really excited to get into today's episode.
But first, like, subscribe.
I know he always remembers to say that now. If you guys are enjoying these podcasts so far, then be sure to go ahead and like, subscribe, comment down below if you are watching on YouTube. And if you are listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, we see those ratings going up, guys. We really appreciate it. You're helping our numbers a ton and you're helping our reach a lot also. So if you can keep rating, give it 5 stars if that's how you feel about the podcast, we'd really appreciate it. And with all that, let's get into today's podcast. Honestly, I'm going to use our YouTube video as a guideline. If you guys haven't watched our YouTube video, it's on my channel and it's just a video titled Finding Out I'm Pregnant and Telling My Husband.
But this is the one that's from the first pregnancy. So I think like from 2 years ago because we have another one that we posted with this pregnancy.
Yeah. So I think when we want to start talking about our journey, we'll first talk about the fact that we got married pretty young.
Yes.
And Eran and I actually lived with my parents in the beginning, which if you guys are interested to know more about that, you can listen to our past podcasts. But as 21-year-olds, we didn't really feel like we were really super ready.
Yeah, I think because Haley was in school and I really didn't have work going on, we didn't think that it was the right time to have kids, even though God had different plans for us. You know, we're just like, okay, we'll wait it off, whatever. Once we kind of are like into our marriage and we're living, when we figure out where we're going to be after a few months, whether we live with our parents or move out,
at that point, we'll start trying to have kids. So we were on birth control for almost a year, I want to say. And the funniest thing is that once we decided to get off, we kind of just thought that it was going to happen right away.
Yeah.
I mean, I even remember planning being like, oh, if we're together this month, we're going to have a March baby. We're going to have a June baby, you know?
Yeah, but it didn't turn out that way at all.
I will tell you guys what. I kind of always knew that everything happens for a reason, and I have that mindset, and so does Eran.
Happens for a reason, everything happens for good.
Yes,
you know,
exactly.
Everybody around us, like my parents, her sister, they were able to have kids really quickly.
They're very fertile.
Very fertile.
Let's just say
your
that.
sister got pregnant
the first week.
Yeah, during her honeymoon, she was already pregnant. They just got married. So we didn't really think that would be an issue for us. It didn't even cross our mind. Mm-hmm. We just figured, okay, once we start trying, we'll have a kid. Chick chag, bada bing, bada boom, that's it. We also
didn't really have anybody in our life that had an experience like that to share, right? Because I feel like that's the thing. pregnancy, miscarriages, all these experiences are like considered so taboo that people don't talk about it.
Yeah.
And I feel like people should talk about it.
Yeah, even when
because-
you got pregnant the first time,
Yeah.
right away the first thing that the midwife told us, like, okay, keep in mind, guys, one out of how many? 1 out of 4?
She's like 1 out of 4 pregnancies.
1 out of 4, 1 out of 3.
1 out of 4.
1 out of 4 pregnancies is miscarriage. And I'm like, wow, that's like a
That's a very high number.
25%. That's a pretty high number. So, you think, oh, it can't happen to you. And then.
Exactly. So basically, let's just say, first, let's talk about our whole experience and that waiting time, because it was like almost 2 years of us trying.
Yeah.
And I do want to say we were pretty positive for like most of it. I think it was more towards like that second year already.
Yeah, I think after like 1 year, we were kind of like, yo, like, what's going on? Especially people around us were like, that got married right after us, and they started having kids like right after.
Yeah.
And we're just like, oh, like maybe something is wrong with us, maybe something wrong with, God forbid, like me, or God forbid with Haley, like,
And I'll tell you guys what, if there's anything I want you to take away from this podcast and something that we learned ourselves, it's how important it is to be sensitive to other people.
Yes.
Especially people when it comes to babies and pregnancy and all that kind of stuff, because you really do not know what other people are going through. And I'll tell you what, the amount of people that we've had, which I know their intentions are good.
Yeah.
The amount of people though that we had come up to us and be like, why aren't you guys having kids yet? Like, come on, when are you going to get pregnant? And like, not knowing that we were trying and it just wasn't happening.
Yeah, they're like, why are you sleeping? Like, you guys already been married for so long, like this and that. And like, obviously for certain people, they can get married and they have kids a few years down the line.
Yeah.
In our culture, it's
usually
in
like
our
a right away
it's
thing.
like you get married and you have kids right away. Like, that's one of the responsibilities of getting married,
Yeah.
Unless you're in a certain situation that you can't. But it was just very difficult. People were saying like, why aren't you having kids? Like, what's wrong? Like this and that. God forbid people would assume something was wrong with Haley. Like, oh, maybe it's her, something wrong, And
I mean, at that point, people were already kind of being a little bit much. But
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, if there's anything it taught us, like going through that whole experience, I remember how like crappy it felt when people were always like asking us and like telling us, why are you sleeping? Like, that was the most annoying thing. Like, why are you sleeping?
And then in
Why
our
are you
like,
sleeping
we're
on
not.
it?
We're not. We're trying every day.
But we weren't even really telling that to people because it was so personal. Like,
Yeah.
people didn't need to know like what goes on in
Yeah.
our bedroom.
The
You know
people,
what I mean?
yeah, exactly. People that didn't know us like knew that we were trying, and that's it. But then there would be people that like didn't know us so well, and that was like the first thing that they would say is like,
Yeah.
when are you having a kid? When are you having
Thank
a kid?
God we never had the pressure from our parents or our siblings.
No, thank
like,
God, no.
Not once did my parents ever like,
Yeah.
But
again, it just taught us to be more sensitive because you really don't know what people are going through and what
Yes.
they're going through. So you just like,
So that being said, what I learned from that experience, never ever ask anybody, when are they having kids? When are they going to get pregnant? And even if you hear somebody's pregnant or think somebody is pregnant, don't ask them if they're pregnant, because if somebody wants you to know that they're pregnant, they will let you know.
unless it's like blatantly obvious. Like you see
No.
them, they're like with the big belly, and then you're like,
Right. But in my head also, it's just like, for example, I had like a friend that like I heard that she was already pregnant, and I heard it from multiple people, but in my head, I'm like, if she wants me to know, she will tell me herself, you know? So I always just wait until that opportunity, and that's kind of like golden advice that I can tell anybody.
Yeah.
So please, please, please take that upon yourself, you guys, because you don't know how badly it can make somebody else feel.
yeah, and the worst thing can be, which unfortunately is happening to some people, they're like, oh, are you pregnant? And they're like, no. And they're like, oh, it's like that's also kind of like,
Yeah, don't tell me you had one of those moments.
no, obviously not to me. I'm not pregnant, but
Yeah. But I'll tell you guys what. So it's been definitely a very, very difficult time, and I think only towards the end I was already kind of thinking like, okay, maybe I should like go get checked. Like maybe I should see what the hormone levels are like. Maybe it's just something that medically you can control. So at what point did I go to the doctor? I think only like a year and a half in or something.
a year and a half in, like.
Yeah.
We spoke to a rabbi about it, and he said like, listen, like it's normal. Some people can't have kids for 2 years. Usually after 2 years you can start like checking whatever. We did a little bit earlier just to make sure, just to have like that peace of mind.
Yeah.
So I think like a year and a half into trying, like Haley went to the gynecologist.
I really only did like the basic stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything crazy, like just checking my blood levels, my hormone levels, making sure I'm ovulating on time. My period was pretty regular. Like I didn't really have any of those issues.
Yeah.
When it came to Eran, in Judaism, there are like some laws and restrictions
like
about
wasting seed, this and that. It's really complicated.
So for us, that would have been like a last resort.
Yeah.
But luckily, even with like all those challenges and that experience, luckily, Eran and I, well, we went on vacation with our
on a
family.
cruise.
We
And
went on
usually
a
they
cruise
say that
trip.
when you go on vacation is when you.
They say when you
can
cross
see.
over water or something.
Nah, I don't know about that. I just think it could also have to do with like, I've heard so many times with people that when they're trying to conceive, they're like, it came out of nowhere because they're like, we just stopped focusing on trying to have a kid and we just like let it be and we're like, oh, it's in God's hands, whatever it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. And then
that's what happened on the vacation.
That's time with us. We're like, you know what, we're gonna go on vacation, we're gonna enjoy, we're not gonna think about ovulation, we're just gonna like have fun and like, you know, get our minds off that.
Have fun. And we had fun.
A lot. Hopefully our neighbors didn't. No, I'm joking. But it's a good thing it was the cruise ship. It was moving a lot, so you can't really tell.
Shut up, you're going too much into this. But anyway,
yeah.
let's just say we ended up going on this cruise with my family, and like it ended up resulting in a positive pregnancy test, which was so exciting. I came back from that trip. It was also not
expected at all.
Not expected at all. And I really think it's because that was the first time we like stopped thinking about, are we ovulating? Is this the right time? Do I keep my legs up like after, you know what I'm saying? No, because you know how people say
myths.
No, you know how people say all the myths of like what to do to get pregnant, positions, all these different things. Like that was maybe the first time that we just didn't think about it, you know? And I think we just like let nature take its course, and that's what ended up happening. So Eran and I ended up suspecting first, obviously, because I missed my period. I actually ended up doing a trip with my girlfriends a couple weeks later.
Not even a couple weeks. It was like 2 days later.
A few days later.
We came back from Miami.
Yeah.
We stayed for a Shabbat. And then Haley went back to Miami with the girls. I do like a
girls' week.
Girls' week, thrift trip, whatever. And then she came back like 5 days later again.
And then at that point, I already found out that I was pregnant.
Yeah.
And if you guys want to see like the original reactions and stuff, it's all in the YouTube video. I love watching it back. Even though it resulted in what it resulted in, it's still a good memory and still a core memory in my head.
Yeah, I know.
Can I have a bite of that Snickers?
Babe, it's really small. It's a bite size. If you bite, it's going to be gone. All right, fine.
That's true love.
And that's true selfishness that you eat my chocolate.
Thank you. I ended up telling Aaron that I was pregnant. We were honestly so ecstatic because it's something that we were waiting for so long. And you know what it was? It was really that reassurance of knowing that we could get pregnant after so long. We just didn't know if we could. That's the scariest part, I think, about it.
Yeah, because I think the hardest part is when you have ovulation or whatever. And then it's like the 2 weeks, so you're like, oh, is she pregnant? Is she not pregnant? Whatever. And then it's like the last few days until she gets her period or not. That's like the hardest part because you're just like, you're going through your day, but back of your head thinking like, did she get her period? And like, I would come home and I'm like, so, no, not yet. I'm like, okay, so maybe it is. And then 2 days later, she's like, oh, I got my period. I'm like, all right, it's okay. Next time.
It's like a punch in the gut though. Over time.
Yeah, and then you would wait another 2 weeks, and it became very like, that's what every month was, and it wasn't healthy, obviously. But like as much as I wanted to be a dad, I wanted Haley to be a mom. So we just wanted it to happen. Like every time we would see like negative, not pregnant, it's just like you still have that hope, but you're just thinking like, when is it gonna be? Yeah. Especially me and Haley are like very impatient people. So we're just like, when is it gonna be? You know, it's like so long ago. Honestly,
I know it's crazy to think about everything we've been through since then. But I'll tell you guys what, like finding out that we were pregnant that time, having that first positive pregnancy test put us in such a good place. Yeah. And then COVID happened, and we went through lockdown, and it was literally all like at the same time. Do you remember?
I mean, in the beginning we thought it was perfect because like, all right, perfect. Like it's
we can keep it quiet.
Lockdown, we can keep it quiet. Like we're gonna be at home. Like maybe that's what like God wanted. That like you'll have a kid, but like it'll be sheltered. Nobody will know about it, and it'll be good. And that this is. And
unfortunately, about 2 weeks later, I ended up going through having a miscarriage.
Yeah, early miscarriage.
An early miscarriage, obviously. I don't want to go into the details of it, but it was very, very, very hard. It was very painful. I remember waking up in the middle of the night. I ended up having to go to the hospital. And like I said, because it was like peak COVID time, I had to literally be at the hospital going through a miscarriage, bleeding, not knowing if I was still pregnant or not by myself.
Yeah,
like,
and you were there for like 14 hours.
Yeah, maybe 14 hours just waiting for a gynecologist to check me and just tell me if I'm still pregnant or not, you know? Like, that was honestly one of the hardest days of my life, I remember. It was so emotional. And again, I was alone. I had like no support.
Yeah, I couldn't go with it. Like, you can't go with her. She's go by herself. And I'm like, well, who's going to be with her? Like, don't worry. Like, there are nurses there.
Was nobody with me. There was nobody with me.
Peak pandemic, so it wasn't the best time.
Yeah, it was the hardest thing to go through. And I'll tell you what, I feel like Eran and I kind of went through all of our emotions in waves, in the sense that when I was having a very hard time with it, he was there kind of just like giving me that positive reassurance of like, listen,
at least we can get pregnant. That's a good sign. Like, you know, it'll happen again, because they say once you get pregnant one time, like it's much quicker the second time. And you know, like I was always being very, very positive with her, but then once she kind of like
Once I started feeling
Yeah.
better, it was like the opposite. Then Eran
I started to get
digging
very
himself
hard, and I was
into a
just
hole.
like, I wouldn't say I got depressed, but I got very like, wow, like, because you try for so long, and finally it happens, and then it's just like, boom, you just get taken away from you, and then you're just like, what? Like, at some point you start to think like, okay, it happened. When is it gonna be the next time? And we didn't get pregnant until like 3 months later.
So, yeah, so that's the thing. I think after that happened, at that point, we reached out to our rabbi. And again, everybody has like their own person to go with, whether that be a therapist, whether that be a friend or a parent. For us, like our rabbi was also my cousin. So I felt like I had a very good personal relationship with him. And he gave us a lot of advice and things that we should follow. And he really did make us feel better.
Mm-hmm.
So going forward, Eran and I think we're definitely in a better mindset. But honestly, babe, I really thought it was going to take us at least another year to get pregnant. Just because it took us so long that first time, you know?
Yeah, guys, we assumed also like you hear certain people. That's the thing. One advice I can give is like try not to get other people's experience and just think that you're gonna be the same way. Exactly. I remember like, we watched a YouTube video and like there was a couple that like they got pregnant really quick and then they had a miscarriage and they get pregnant for 5 years.
I remember when you heard that
and I watched it, I'm
Haley,
like, oh my god! I told her I don't want to see that because I don't want that to be in my head because it's very very important. We also know it in the Torah and everything. Like when you visualize something and you believe in it. It will come true. So if I think in my head, God forbid, that it's going to take us a while, odds are it will take us a while.
It's manifestation. It's the power of manifestation. Exactly. If you really genuinely believe that something's going to go to shit, excuse my language, then like it really can. And vice versa. Obviously, like you can have a positive mindset and things may still not go right, but it's always better to think about the good outcomes 100%. Rather than the bad. So if there's anything we can advise you guys also in experiences like that is always just try to think best case scenario rather than worst case scenario. And you know what? Hearing other people's experiences, it can help, but it can also hurt. So just be sure to keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, be sensitive to it. Choose what you can handle and not handle.
Something that I really wanted to get into is obviously we didn't really have much of a waiting period until we got our next positive pregnancy test, which thank God I am so grateful for.
I think in general, like the infertility journey and then even the miscarriage really grew us closer together and really grew us closer to Hashem, God. That's something like if you really think about the miracle of having a kid, that is something that is not in our control at all. That is 100% in God's control because you can do tests, you can do these things and shots and these, I don't know, whatever you can do now.
But whether you're going to actually have a child
is not in your hands. It's not in your hands. You can pay millions of dollars and there are people that pay a lot of money, but they can't have kids. So that's literally something that's not within our hands. So we just came to the realization like it's all in God's hands
and I feel like
brought us much closer to Hashem.
And I also feel like we just gave up control.
Yeah.
We just gave up trying to think that it was up to us to control the situation. And we really just did our best to like pray, to take upon ourselves a lot of things. So one of the stories that I quickly wanted to share was that we actually got advice from people like in the Jewish world that a big zgula, they say, or like something that you can do in order to get pregnant. Babe, no more candy.
This is my last one.
No.
This is my last one.
Oh my gosh. Just chew away from the microphone. Basically, they said something that you can do in order to get pregnant is actually host people in your home, like welcome people, have guests in your home, whether that be for Shabbat dinner or just invite people over. The idea behind it is that you're welcoming God's children because we're all God's children, right? So it's like you're welcoming God's children into your home. And as you do this, because obviously it's not the easiest thing to host sometimes, as you do this, God will bless you with children.
Yeah, because you're taking care of my children.
Let me take care of yours.
I'm gonna give you your own children to take care of.
Exactly. So with that being said, it was very hard for me to host in the past just because on Shabbat, my parents go to synagogue. And because we have to walk, the synagogue was so far. During this time, I remember
everything was locked down.
There was no
synagogues available.
Synagogues, churches, everything was closed. And I'm like, you know what, Eran, this is a perfect opportunity for me to invite my parents and my family over for Shabbat because otherwise they would like never really be able to come. We would always go to my mom's. So that weekend was the first weekend that we hosted in her home. And it was my birthday week, I remember. It was in June.
Yes.
And it was honestly so beautiful. We had such a great time. Everybody enjoyed so much.
It was our first time hosting.
Ever.
And we lived in that house for a year.
Yeah, so keep that in mind.
And it was the first time we hosted at new families for Shabbat.
Yeah. And the craziest thing is that just 2 weeks after that, like a little over 2 weeks after that, we got that first positive
that same month we
pregnancy
found
test.
out.
It's crazy. I mean, maybe it was just like my birthday gift because we did this, but like we actually did end up getting pregnant from that, which was just like insane. And there's a follow-up story that I will get to later.
Yeah, I think the difference, like with the first time and second time, the first time we were just more shocked because we were just expecting like a no, and then finally it was like a positive one. The second time around, it was more of like
a relief.
Like we knew it was coming, and we knew this one was gonna stick.
Yeah.
This one was like a for sure
If
thing
there's
because we really
anything-
believed that it was.
Yes. If there's anything I can say, getting that second positive pregnancy test, I like just knew, and you could even in the video I said it. I remember I'm like, no, this is gonna be fine. This baby's gonna be healthy. We're not gonna have another miscarriage. Like this is gonna be our first child. And thank God that was how we got Aaliyah. And you know what? A lot of you guys actually asked us, why is it that we gave Aaliyah her name? And I don't think I actually really explained it to many people, but basically Aliyah in Hebrew, it means to rise. It means to elevate. And I feel like throughout the whole experience that we've had throughout our pregnancy, we honestly just elevated ourselves to God, and we've become so much closer in our relationship with God. So when Aaliyah was born, she was like honestly our little miracle, and we just felt like the name was so fitting for her because she is what brought us closer to God.
Yeah.
And the whole experience.
All the times of, those false pregnancy tests. It was the miscarriage and being pregnant with Aaliyah, and you had a very, thank God, very easy
very
pregnancy.
good pregnancy,
thank God.
yeah.
And so we really realized that God brought all this into our life for a purpose, and it was to get closer to Hashem.
And if any of you guys are going through something difficult, I'm sure you hear this all the time, but our daughter was so freaking worth the wait. Like if there's anything I can say, I look at her as someone like she is so special. She's so special. She needed some extra time because she was so special,
And
that's how I look at it.
And I think that's the way it kind of works. Like everybody has a certain, I guess, gift that God wants to give, and you have to just reach a certain level. He wants to give you something so precious, but you need to reach that level in order to get it. Kind of like a game, I would say. And so God was waiting for us to reach a certain level of love or spirituality or
even respect towards ourselves,
respect towards each other, towards other people. Once we reached it, he's like, okay, now you guys are ready to become parents. Now you're ready to for me to give you the gift that has been waiting for you for this time.
And our whole infertility journey has just made us such better parents in general because we've honestly just learned so much more patience with one another. Also,
with one another, we matured a bit more. We just grew a lot as
and we're
people.
also super grateful for her. So now when she drives us nuts, sometimes we're just like,
listen, we
were waiting a long time for you. So with that, we had such a blessed experience, obviously, with having Aaliyah. And I'll tell you guys what, going into our second experience now, Eran and I mean, I did get on birth control, but for a very, very, very short time. Our personal choice was to talk to our rabbi about our whole fertility journey. And basically, like, obviously we were on birth control for a little while, and I got off of it because I just like didn't really feel like I wanted to be on it for so long. And I also, to be honest, because it took us so long the first time, I thought maybe the second time it would take us long as well. Eran and I were already in the mindset that we're like, okay, you know what? I think a 2-year age gap between kids would be nice. So maybe at this point we can like start trying again. So I'll tell you guys what. The funny thing is that Eran and I were going through so much because we were like moving from his parents' house to our current house that we're staying at right now, and like the last thing on our mind was possibly getting pregnant again.
Keep in mind, we were trying. Sorry to cut you off, babe. We were trying in December. Like as soon as when we were in Toronto, we're like, okay, when we relocate to Florida,
we'll start trying.
We're gonna start trying. So in December we started trying because again we didn't know how long it'll take us.
So basically, this is where my follow-up story comes in. Okay. It's actually, I think it's around February that my sister reaches out to me and tells me that she wants to come to Florida with her family. And I told her, okay, of course, come visit us. Like, it would be so great. At this point, we're still living at Eran's parents' house.
It's a family of 5.
It's a family of 5, yeah. She's got 3 boys.
Yeah, 3 boys.
So because of that, we were just like, okay, fine, no problem. We're actually moving into our new place in March, so it's perfect.
We love you guys, though. We love the family. Don't think that we don't.
So we thought mid-March they're going to come. It's perfect. We'll have 2 weeks to settle into this new space. And then we have space to host them and all of that good stuff. So our plans ended up changing just in the sense that this house needed a little bit of work before we moved in. So we were only actually able to move in a day before they were arriving, which was so stressful. Like, it was so stressful. Like, think about the fact that we just moved to a new country. We didn't really have like extra beds or mattresses, towels, blankets, pillows. We didn't have anything.
Yeah, everything was really last minute winging type of thing.
Exactly. So then I was thinking to myself, like, okay, yes, I have an opportunity here to tell my sister, sis, I love you, but like, we're not ready to host you. Can you go stay by like Ellen's parents' house or something, you know? But I just really, obviously, the fact that it's like my family, I wanted them to stay with us. As hard as it was, because we just felt like we weren't ready, I did tell myself, okay, we need to open our home. We need to host.
Yeah, because we viewed it as like, for the 3 months we were staying with my parents, we finally found a place that's like great for us, great for our work, great for our family, great space. And we're like, listen, we want to do things right this time. If God blessed us with the home for the price that we got and whatever, we're gonna take advantage of it. And maybe this is maybe this is the test. Like,
exactly.
The fact that your sister's coming with the whole family, like the day after we move in, like, it's okay, we'll make it work. Like, they understand that we're not fully moved in yet. They'll worst case help out. Like, we'll be fine.
So Ellen and I obviously were just like, you know what, let's keep hosting them, let's not change anything, we'll just pull through like the difficult things. So I did like 2 shopping trip days, I remember all of that.
God,
we
that
figured
Friday
it out
for Shabbat was so hectic.
but we hosted all of them.
We did.
And your family.
And I think, who else came at that?
Your
I think
sister,
my sister. Oh, my
exactly.
sister
It was a lot.
was here.
So I'll tell you guys what, all of that was definitely a lot. The craziest thing is, after hosting them for that whole like week that they were here, 2 weeks later we get another positive pregnancy test, you guys. It was insane.
But we didn't even think that month was the month, because we were trying, but we thought it would take some time. But that month we were only together one time in ovulation, because there was just so much things going on.
Yeah, we didn't like line it up with
ovulation. Orlando, and we had to go here, and we're hosting them and everything. So we're also exhausted. So we're like, okay, probably this month is not gonna happen. So when Haley's like, listen, I'm late, I'm like, it can't be that you're late. Like, we only were together one time.
I know. And you guys can actually go watch that second video announcing that pregnancy. Like, we were shocked.
We were shocked because it didn't make any sense. It's like a 1 in a million.
Yeah.
And then she was pregnant. I'm like, wow, like, what are the odds that both times that we hosted people
for the first
time, that's when you conceived. So it just goes to show, like, you don't know what you need to do in order to unlock that.
Obviously, we're not saying like, if this is what you're gonna do, this is something that's gonna allow you to get pregnant. There's like so much other stuff to it, but the whole point was that, like, it was just, for me, I don't believe in coincidences, especially when they're like too close together. So that's just our personal experience. And I'll tell you guys what, I think it took me a very long time to kind of accept the fact that I was going to be pregnant again, just because, like we spoke about in a previous podcast, I had a very difficult postpartum the first time around. So that was like kind of what I was thinking in the back of my mind. But as she's been growing in my belly, at this point, just so excited to meet her and just like meet another child of ours, knowing how special Aaliyah is. Like, I'm just so excited to meet another one. But I guess the reason as to why we wanted to share all of like these gory details with you guys is just because sometimes, as we've said in the past, social media can seem like such a highlight reel, and you guys can see us taking pictures in cute outfits and like going out on family dates and like having really sweet moments in pregnancy, and like at the end of the day, you don't know what everyone is going through. You don't know what everyone has gotten through to get to the point that they are. And I want you guys to know that, like, everybody goes through challenges. I really feel like there's some people who go through challenges in the dating world. Some people go through challenges once they get married. People go through challenges financially. A lot of people go through challenges with conceiving and having a family and all of that kind of stuff. So you really, really, really always just want to make sure to be sensitive, and always want to make sure to remember that everything happens for good and everything happens for a reason. Because now we have our amazing rainbow baby, and now we have another rainbow baby like coming up. Like, we're so excited for it.
Why is it rainbow baby?
Rainbow, I don't know.
I think rainbow is only after you have a miscarriage and then you conceive, and it's a full pregnancy. That's a rainbow baby. I think after that, just a regular thing.
She's not just a regular baby. This one's a rainbow baby too.
Every kid is special.
Every kid's special.
But I think in the end of the day, like what Haley said, like, everybody goes through these things, and it happens. And that's the thing. We didn't really think that it was common. We didn't think that nobody went through this in our circle, and it's very common, and it's very common. And the thing is that whether you have already kids and then later on you had a miscarriage, or you never had kids before and the first one was a miscarriage, in the end of the day, it's still hard. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter, because sometimes people might say, like, if they had a miscarriage after the fourth, because like, oh, but it's okay, you have kids already, so
We
might
know
not.
so many people who
Yeah.
have like a few kids and then they have a miscarriage or they have a hard time like getting pregnant the fourth time, the fifth time.
Yeah.
And like it's just as hard.
Yeah,
So-
early miscarriage, later miscarriage, like they're very, very difficult things. So I think just the best advice that we can give in those things is also like time. Time will heal you for sure.
Mhm.
Just being around people that, maybe went through a similar thing, they can just help you, give advice, and just uplift you, and kind of just work on yourself. Just do things to kind of keep you distracted. It will be so difficult. I remember for us, it was so hard. It was something like I couldn't comprehend.
It was for sure the
it.
hardest part of our
It was
marriage.
one of the hardest parts, because you waited so long for something, and then you have that. Like, I wouldn't say it broke me, but it was just everything at once, because it was like lockdown and we couldn't work to distract
And nobody
ourselves.
knew. Nobody
We
knew I
couldn't
was
see
pregnant.
friends. Nobody knew she was pregnant. Like, it was all so much at once. And I feel like once we started to talk to people, they were like, yeah, I went through the same thing. We're like, really? They're like, yeah, we also had trouble being, having kids. And now, thank God, we have like 5 kids.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, wow. So it's not just me.
And that's why when we did that first pregnancy announcement, guys, I could have very easily just shared the second time that we found out we were pregnant and completely omitted like the whole miscarriage experience. The reason I didn't want to do that is because I want to give a voice to people who go through this, to tell them like, you're not alone. This is so common. There's nothing wrong with you, because there's so many different like circumstances as to why someone has a miscarriage.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just unfortunately bad luck. Sometimes it's the fact that the baby maybe wouldn't have been 100% healthy. Sometimes it's just the fact that honestly it wasn't time. Maybe your relationship just needed to marinate a little bit more.
In the end of the day, we don't know why this occurs. We
Yeah.
all know that God has a plan, and everything that God does is good, because He's an infinite amount of good.
Yeah.
And so we know that like Hashem did that for us for a reason. And if we would go back and rewind it, we wouldn't change a thing.
And if there's one thing that I can say, as much as it was so difficult to go through that infertility and to go through the miscarriage, once we actually found out that we were pregnant with Aaliyah, all of that just disappeared.
It just literally like
crazy.
as if it never happened.
Guys, it took us 2 years to get pregnant. And then once we actually got pregnant, all of that waiting time just disappeared.
And 2 years might not even feel like
A
a
lot.
long time. For some people, God forbid, go for 5 years, 10 years. Like,
Yeah.
it's very scary. I'm not saying that God forbid that will happen to you guys. And if anything, we bless everybody watching this and
Sending
everybody not
baby
watching this.
dust to everybody who wants to have
May
babies.
God bless you with kids and be fruitful. That's the first mitzvah, blessing
Torah.
that we have in the Torah. That, like, the first command that God gave us is be fruitful, multiply. So we're trying our best to do that and fulfill that duty. And I think that's one of the reasons why we were hopped on having a second kid as soon as we could.
Exactly.
Because we wanted to, have a big family, and like, because we couldn't conceive for so long before, it just really appreciated us what we have now.
And it just really made me realize, like I said, as hard as it was, once we actually started like living our life, it's like that difficult part of our life is like a speck on our timeline now.
It was kind of there to like help us grow and help other people, because as soon as we had that video, a lot of people within our circle, people that we didn't even know very well, would approach us and they would say, I just had a miscarriage. Like, I went to a very similar situation as you guys. What do I do? We were only trying for 2 months, but I had
or they
like,
were
what do I
telling
do?
me like, even just watching your video just made me feel like it's not my fault and that I'm not alone.
Yeah,
you know?
you're not alone, and it happens to many people, believe it or not. It just, people don't talk about it sometimes, either because they don't want to talk about it, or
They feel like it's
hurt
taboo
to
or
talk about
something.
it or something like that. But it happens. But there is light at the end of the tunnel, and God willing, like we said, anybody that's listened to this that's had it happen to them, or they're trying to conceive, may God, open the gates.
Oh my gosh.
And
we don't need
let
to
it
get so
happen.
descriptive, but honestly, we're just sending baby dust to all of you guys who are hoping to become parents or even want to go on with your next pregnancy. And we really, really just love you guys, and we love all your love and support also. The reason we wanted to share this topic today is because we're just getting so nostalgic over the fact that like we're already on baby number 2, and our experience in the past has just been like such a roller coaster that we thought it would be a perfect thing to share with you guys before we like kind of move on and introduce a new baby into our life.
Because once we have another kid,
It's all going to be about newborn life and baby life.
Newborn life and no sleep life,
Yeah.
and then managing 2 kids, not just one. So it's
Which,
going to be
yeah.
an experience.
And we're for sure going to be having a lot of podcasts about that too. So stick around.
For sure.
Honestly, I have a feeling like this may be the last one before we actually have a baby, but I've been saying that for the last couple weeks.
Could you imagine like we're filming the podcast and he's like, babe, like what? My water just broke. Like, right now, can we like wait 10 minutes? We're going to finish it right now.
Can you imagine? But we love you guys so much. Thank you all so much for watching. If you are watching up to this point, you are the real MVPs. We love the ones who stay absolutely, to the end. If you are listening to this point, then comment down below, Rainbow Baby.
Rainbow Baby.
Because I think it's a perfect opportunity for us to celebrate the fact that we have blessings in our life, thank God.
We all have blessings, and we just have to just focus on the good blessings that we have and focus on what we have and just be grateful for that.
Exactly.
And then once you look at that, God will just bless you more. If you really, really appreciate what God gives you, God's like, oh, you really appreciate what I'm giving you? I'm going to give you something to be appreciative about. And it goes vice versa. If God forbid you start looking at the negative things,
He's going to be like, I'm going to show you something bad.
Yeah. It's just at the end of the day, like, you are who you surround yourself by. If you're positive and you're trying to look at the good of things, and sometimes it's not always so easy to do that, but just try your best. Surround yourself with positive, like-minded people, especially in certain difficult times, and you will get through it. And there's always light and light at the end of the tunnel.
Good enunciation, babe.
Thank you, babe. Appreciate it.
We love you guys so much. Be sure to subscribe down below if you haven't already to the Hey Babes podcast. Again, be sure to rate. Let us know what you guys are thinking in the comments below. Apple, Spotify, all that good stuff. We love you all so much. Thank you for listening to our little history lesson, our little journey. And we can't wait to speak to you, see you, hear you in the next one.
Yeah. Love you guys.